So of course I've now decided to sit up straight, so I have to adjust the camera before I switch over to it. If I am able to do so, that is. That's interesting nonetheless. And there I am. Hello, everybody. Hello, YouTube community. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder why it's doing that. Running through all of my various details. So we'll run through this again really quickly. I'm Steve Britton. Welcome to my Friday webcast. I'm going to keep glancing to the side because that's where the monitor is that I'm watching the information here on my show. So we'll do that a little bit, so at least I'm not looking as far. So you can find me on, of course, you can find me on minds.com. And now it's not going to work, naturally. So we'll do that. There we go. So there we are. You can find me on minds.com/scbritton. You can find me on Twitter. Same thing, @scbritton, though. You can also find me on Patreon. That's also a very good place to find me. I'm also known as SC Britton over there. And, of course, I'm on Facebook, Steve Speaks Freely. So, there you go. There's my various different channels where you can find me here. And I wanted to just get those out there and do my thing. So, what am I going to talk about today? Well, it's always the question of the moment, isn't it? Because I'm just going to sit back and relax a little bit because I like this sitting beside me, if you get my meaning there. So that's why I'm doing that. But what am I going to talk about? Well, the title of this episode is "Social Justice is Fascist." And you may be thinking, what the hell are you talking about now? And really, it comes from a couple of points. First of all, it comes from the whole idea surrounding social justice. So let's have a look at that just to get things started here. So we'll do that. I'm still learning this OBS, Open Broadcast Software, so you'll have to bear with me as I go through this. So let's talk about what social justice is, and I found this website here. It's Pachamama Alliance. I think that's how you pronounce it. Strange name for a social justice group. But as you can see here, they're advertising actually an online course for a socially justice world. Just so pay us money and sign up for this course and we'll teach you what to think and how to think it. That's right, they're going to brainwash you and you're going to pay them to do it, apparently. So social justice issues occur globally, nationally, regionally, locally, and within groups. Within groups. You see? And now you're seeing the justification for the left to eat its own. These issues are a result of unequal wealth and resource distribution, unfair treatment of individuals with differing triads. I think that's supposed to be traits. Race, culture, sexual orientation, religion, etc., and laws that support segregation. Now, you'll agree with me, segregation is wrong. But the fact of the matter is, no matter what society you get into, no matter what you do with society, you're always going to have unequal distribution of wealth and unequal distribution of resources. It's going to happen simply by human nature. This is the way people are. But you see, social justice wants to stop that from happening. It comes down to what kids are taught. Sharing is caring. And if you're curious about that, look up my video on, I've got it here on my channel. Look up the video I did on the subject of sharing and capitalism as explained using Halloween candy. It was a very important lesson that my own child learned with the whole Halloween candy thing. And I got to thank Stephen Crowder, Louder with Crowder, for that. And they found it somewhere else, of course. But it's very, very true. And just think, with your kids' Halloween candy, just say to them, why don't we take half of it and go donate it to somebody who didn't go out for Halloween? Watch your kid's reaction. Your kid will flip, guaranteed. So there's that. So let's look at how to distinguish types of social justice issues. Social justice issues can be delineated into two categories, although they are often codependent. Last time I checked, codependency is a bad thing. Look up the definition of a codependent person. They're a predator. They need to be depended on, and they depend on you depending on them. And then they, of course, can hold that over your head and build up and resent you for it, and that whole bit. And that really is the problem with socialism in general. I'm actually going to deviate a little bit. Just remember this story. You know, you give a man a fish, you feed him for the day. You teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. Well, this is what social justice would teach as well. Let's look at the story slightly differently. Let's look at it this way. You're a educator in fishing. You're going to teach people to fish, okay? So you've got two students. We'll call one Bill, and we'll call the other one Bob. Bill and Bob, the fishing students. There you go. And you go out for the fishing lesson on day one. Bill and Bob pay attention to you. You start teaching them how to fish. And at the end of the day, you give Bill a fish. But you don't give one to Bob. And then tell him to come back tomorrow. And on day two, you do the same thing. You give them their fishing lesson. And at the end of the lesson, you give Bill a fish, but you don't give a fish to Bob. Okay, Bob's probably getting kind of annoyed with you at this point, but that's a different matter altogether. On the end of day 3, you do the same thing. You give Bill a fish, but you don't give one to Bob. Day 4, same thing. You give a fish to Bill. You don't give one to Bob. Who do you think is going to be paying the most attention to you on day 5? Bill or Bob? Bob, because he's really, really hungry. And eventually Bob is going to learn how to fish, and he'll be able to catch his own fish. Bill doesn't care. He's going to get a fish regardless. Bill is dependent on you. You know it, and you can, if you're a codependent person, you can hold it over Bob, or Bill rather. And Bill knows it, and he hates you for it. Bob doesn't care. He goes off, he fishes, he's set for life. He can eat. Bill, he's dependent on you. Now, the social justice person would argue that you're being more appropriate and more fair to Bill than Bob. So anyway, that's really the underlying problem here, because you should not be developing people who are dependent on you. So, intersocial treatment. This involves treatment of groups. These guys need to work on their grammar. Of people within the local and regional scale. The basis for this unequal treatment is usually due to a personal belief about that group or groups, racism, sexism, ageism, heterosexual sexism, whatever, and unequal government regulation and all that stuff, right? And it goes on and on and on and on. So, and I'm going to make the point that this is fascist. And we'll look into that as to why in just a moment. But it's actually really scary, because if you look, there is a lot of blaming going on. You are responsible. And I talked about this on Wednesday. If you listen to what these social justice warriors, and on Wednesday's case it was feminists, but feminism is a form of social justice warrior. Being a feminist is a social justice warrior by definition. And if you listen to what that K person was saying, referred to me as, oh, you know, that cisgendered white heterosexual man speaking, you know, mansplaining, manspreading, and all that crap. And going on and on and on and on and on about it. It's fascism. Because fascism involves a number of things. It involves nationalism. Nationalism is defined as a feeling of belonging, a feeling of togetherness, a sense of togetherness, a brotherhood. We are united. We are us. And anyone who is not part of us is them. Right? So there's that. And the other component of nationalism is identifying scapegoats. Okay? In order for us to be the right, us to be divine, us to be special, us to be the chosen ones, it means you need a them who isn't. You need a them to whom you can assign blame. They are the cause of all of our problems. Think about Black Lives Matter. They, the cops, which is what sparked the movement, but it's been boiled down to white people. Feminists, they are the cause. They have oppressed us. In this case, it's men. And you want to add intersectionality to it, you can add white men to it. Or look at the white nationalist movement, which is also a fascist movement. They are the cause of the problems. Blacks, because they can't understand our whiteness, in the words of Richard Spencer. I don't believe this. I don't agree with this, by the way. They are the cause of the problems. The Jews, again, these are the white nationalists speaking, because they need to blame somebody. And why? Because, well, Jewish people run all the banks. You know, maybe instead of blaming them, maybe we should take lessons from them, right? One of the principles, I believe, is that poor people should take rich people out to lunch. Because a truly decent rich person, a rich person who is truly rich, will be, and by the way, you can only get rich by helping others. A truly rich person will be more than willing to share with others how they achieved what they achieved. Rich people want others to be rich and are willing to help them. And that includes Donald Trump. Before he became president, of course, because now he can't because of the security around him. But that's what real rich people are like. But you can see these fascism and nationalism and this whole identitarianism produces this feeling of scapegoating, this attitude of scapegoating, blaming others for their problems, right? They did it in the run-up to World War II, blaming the gypsies, blaming the Jews, blaming the blacks, blaming the heteros, blaming whoever. If you blame them and you can get rid of them, then you can bring about racial purity, identity purity, identitarian purity, social homogeny, and so on. And once you've got social homogeny, there's no one to blame, but now you're going to start to, there's still going to be inequity. So now you're going to have to start finding the fifth column within your group, looking for the usurpers. You see, and gradually, this is the failing of fascism. Your community gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until you've just got this tightly knit few who are all conforming, and you got the one guy at the top controlling how everyone thinks. And that is what social justice warriors are like too. Because the moment you step outside the fold, we can see this with what happened with Lacey Green when she said that she was going to be willing to, when she said that she was now willing to talk to others of different viewpoints. She got pounced on by her own feminist community. Or perhaps we should mention Cassie Jaye when she did the Red Pill movie. She got pounced on by the feminists because now she's doing a movie about men's rights activism, which, you can't talk to them because they're the bad guys. They're the evil ones. And that is the problem with social justice, with everything surrounding social justice. whether it's feminism, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's by any means necessary, whether it's Antifa, all of this approach is fascist, because you end up scapegoating, you end up creating the us and them, you end up dictating the way people are going to think, you end up with this whole anti-democratic thought approach, because you don't want a diversity of thought, you want uniformity of thought. You end up with the one-party state because you can only have one party, because heaven forbid anyone dare disagree. And of course, you start as well, you start labeling your opposition with the pejorative terms. Think about what the left says about the right and anybody on the right nowadays. You try and talk to a leftist demonstrator, they will respond with, "I don't debate with fascists." See? You're either us or them. And that is a serious problem. So, with that, it's a short one today. I had a long one on Wednesday, so I'm going to make up for it by going short today. Want to thank everyone for watching, of course. Make sure and check me out over on minds.com. Over there, you can wire me points, or you can wire me money as well. Either way, it's very much appreciated if you choose to do so. It's not expected, of course, but it is an option available to you. Anything that you send my way is very much appreciated and will go towards making this show, making the show better. You can find me on Patreon, where the same thing applies. Now, Patreon doesn't do the point system, but you can become a patron. Watch Patreon, because they're changing their structure a bit, and they're going to start charging you for the privilege of paying me. And I don't like that, and I'm looking at other options, but right now I'm still over on Patreon. So there's that as well. You can find me on Twitter, of course, if you just want to talk to me, at SCBritton. And if you want to follow my page, you can find me over on Facebook as well. Steve Speaks Freely. So I'm here on YouTube. I do the show Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I aim for 10 a.m. If it doesn't work out that way, oh well, because most of you watch this after the fact on demand anyway. But there you go. So with that, I'm going to sign off. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you on Monday. I'm Steve Britton.